Coming up on Network Africa, 17 more students abducted from a school in Nigeria return home after escaping their captors. Somalia severs diplomatic ties with neighboring Kenya. Plus, South Africa announces tougher COVID-19 restrictions to curb the second wave of the pandemic. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. 17 of the over 333 students abducted from Government Science Secondary School, Kankara in Katsina State here in Nigeria have returned home after escaping from their abductors. This leaves 316 of them still in captivity of the bandits, according to the media aide of the state governor, who said that the bandits warned that security operatives who were monitoring their hideouts with helicopter must stop the action. This account seems to be in conflict with reports saying that the terrorist group Boko Haram has claimed responsibility for the abduction of the students. According to the AFP, the group's leader, Abubakar Shekau, made the claim in a voice message stating that they went for the students to promote Islam and discourage Western education. Yesterday, the state governor, Aminu Masari, said contact had been made with the abductors and discussions were currently ongoing to ensure the safe return of the rest of the students. The governor said this when he met with President Muhammadu Buhari in Daura to brief him on efforts made so far to rescue the children. Away from Nigeria, the federal government of Somalia has cut diplomatic ties with neighboring Kenya. It has also recalled all its diplomats from Nairobi and given Kenyan diplomats in Mogadishu 7 days to leave the country. The announcement was made by the Minister of Information, Osman Abubakar Dube, on state media. Now, this decision comes after Somalia submitted a letter of protest against Kenya to Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok, who happens to be the chair of the Regional Bloc Intergovernmental Authority on Development. It also comes as Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta on Monday hosted the president of the self-declared Republic of Somaliland, Muse Bihi. Somaliland declared independence from Somalia in 1991, but is not officially recognized by the United Nations, the African Union, or any country. Somalia recently also accused Kenya of meddling in its internal affairs. Well, joining us now for more on this is African Affairs analyst Chike Chude for more. Thank you so much for speaking to us on the program. Let me start by asking you, what do you think of all that's happening?
Well, I would say it's unfortunate because these are two critical partners in that particular Horn of Africa that have been involved or that have been beset with the same kind of security challenges. Al-Shabaab has been very, very active in that region, and both countries have been involved in efforts to tackle the acts of terrorism from Al-Shabaab, and they have always worked in the past. Kenya has had some military actions, engagements, even in concert with other African Union countries in Somalia to keep that country safe. And of course, we all know, apart from the general need to ensure security in that country, but the fact that acts of instability in one country would also affect neighboring countries. So Kenya is very much aware of the need to work, much more closely with Somalia, and they have always done that. Actually, for quite some time, they have always relied on intelligence, sharing between both countries to combat the Al-Shabaab terrorist group in that area. So it is unfortunate because none of these sides, neither Kenya nor Somalia will win from this negative relationship that is right now going on. They are all going to lose because they need one another. It's a partnership that helps to keep both countries safe.
Yeah, and like you've rightly said, Somalia has been battling with the Al-Shabaab insurgency and Kenya has waded into, help. Now, with this severed ties, what impact do you think this will have, especially on the security in that region?
It's going to be negative because from all indication, they are not going to work together. They're not going to cooperate together. And the only group that is going to benefit from that lack of cooperation between both countries is the group that has always suffered from this cooperation between them, and that is the Al-Shabaab terrorists, because it means that they are not going to share intelligence, they are not going to share information that is critical to keeping both countries safe. So it is not a very good thing at all. And like I said, it will not augur well for both sides.
And just very quickly, sir, the leaders of Somalia and Kenya, they've actually previously held meetings to resolve the tensions between the two countries. But with this latest development, that shows it has not yielded any good result. What do you think can be done to, mend the relationship going forward?
Yeah, well, they had a faulty, frosty relationship. They had a aperitif sometime, I think, February last year, which they eventually made up. And of course, there were all kinds of diplomatic, they were expelling both their diplomats last year. But by November last year, that had been sorted out. But of course, the real issue really right now, it's economic interest. Economic interest in the sense that there's a disputed oil field just off the coast of Juba land. And of course, Juba also falls within the part of Somalia, some Somaliland that has broken off from the federal government, that central government that has not been recognized either by the African Union or by the United Nations.
Yes.
And so it is this, attempt perhaps, and of course the matter is already at the International Court of Justice between Somalia and Kenya. And Kenya wants that matter taken out of the International Court of Justice, and Somalia refuses. So this latest attempt by Kenya to embrace the leader of the breakaway part of Somaliland, I think, is what has actually caused this problem. And I think Somalia is, the central government is not happy with that. And that is why they have gone to this level. Like I said, it's all about economic interest. But ultimately, at the end of the day, every dispute must be settled at the negotiating table. Both sides need one another.
Indeed.
The sooner they begin to talk themselves, better.
Yes. Thank you so much, African Affairs Analyst Achike Trudeau. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, as the Central African Republic prepares for its elections, more electoral materials are being shipped into the country. The materials are being protected round the clock by national security forces and UN peacekeepers from the multi-dimensional integrated stabilization mission in the Central African Republic, MINUSCA. The first round of legislative and presidential elections is scheduled for December 27th. Since 2015, the Data Processing Center at the National Election Authority has housed high-end and sensitive equipment for the management of electoral data. UN peacekeepers and internal security provide 24/7 security for those materials. Now, the deployment of these materials include ballot boxes, voting booths, as well as voters' cards from the capital, Bangui, to provinces that is currently undergoing tight security provided by MINUSCA. Well, the health ministry officials in Kenya, they say the government has ordered 24 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccines. Although it's not clear which vaccine the East African country has ordered, local media reports that the government is to spend 10 billion Kenyan shillings for the vaccines. According to a report, the ministry submitted its request to the Global Vaccine Alliance Initiative, Gavi, last week, and top on the list of those who will be vaccinated are frontline workers, the elderly, and those with underlying conditions. The purchase is expected to be enough to cover 20% of the country's population. Well, Cyrus Ombati, a Kenyan journalist, speaks more now on the government's purchase, which exact vaccine it is that the government is buying, and the reactions to it if people are willing to receive the jab, and also when Kenya will be ready to begin mass vaccination.
Good afternoon. We understand the Minister of Health has made an application to get 24 million doses of the vaccine, and they are aiming to get the vaccine from the Pfizer group, the American, or rather, the American and the German company, which has already made a breakthrough in the manufacturing of the vaccine for COVID-19. This is just they made this. It's going to cost almost 10 billion Kenyan shillings. That's around $100 million, which is actually a higher cost in terms of cost, which everyone is expecting that to get this thing for free. And so far, the government has been receiving a lot of criticism from Kenyans because most Kenyans feel that there's no preparations to have them be kind of vaccinated as other regions or countries are doing the same. We understand President Kenyatta had earlier on told the Minister of Health to also look at the Far East, Russia and the China vaccines, see whether they are viable or they can be administered locally. That's a question of now waiting and see. Again, there's a question of now whether Kenyans are ready to be vaccinated or not, because there's nothing much in terms of kind of civic education that has been done to Kenyans to understand that they need to have this vaccine. They need to be vaccinated to be able to contain its spread. There are some few Kenyans who think or feel that COVID is a hoax or is a lie by the government to make money or to kind of push them to the ground. But then that's another issue. But there has been a drive. The Minister for Health always holds a press conference daily to update Kenyans on what's happening. And they have been saying that they're happy with what's happening in the Western world in terms of vaccination. So they hope this thing will be here by May, probably next month or next year, that is, for the whole program to be rolled out. Kenya has been a country where vaccination is done on a frequent basis. When you look at polio, there is also flu, many kinds of flus which are being fought here. So it's done through vaccination. So I believe they have a kind of a mechanism or a way of rolling it out properly. The problem here maybe is the storage of these drugs when they arrive. That's a challenge. But then we understand that the airports, they have been told to kind of make more space for the same so that they can be able to handle once and when they're here.
Now, the National Commissioner of the South African Police Service, General Kayla John Sithole, has tested positive for COVID-19. A statement issued by his office says General Sithole underwent a test on Monday after coming into contact with a member of the SAPS who tested positive. He's not showing any signs or symptoms of the virus at this stage, and he's said to be self-isolating for at least a period of 10 days. However, Lieutenant General Sindile Mfazi has been appointed to act as the National Commissioner until further notice. Still ahead on the program. We'll meet Egyptian architect who designs accessories that mirrors the British Iraqi architect's work, Zaha Hadid, who's her role model. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. South Africa has announced new restrictions to try to contain a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. President Cyril Ramaphosa said a sharp rise in new infections was the cause for great concern as he announced plans to limit mass gatherings over the holiday period. Our South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia has more on this story.
The president's speech was preceded by lots of speculation, especially as he was coming just 11 days after his last address. This is what he said.
Cabinet has decided that further restrictions need to be imposed nationwide from midnight tonight with immediate effect. Firstly, We will ensure that there is stricter enforcement of existing alert level 1 restrictions throughout the country during the festive season and beyond. Gatherings, including religious gatherings, may not be attended by more than 100 people for indoor events and 250 for outdoor events. In the areas with the highest rate of infection, beaches and public parks will be closed for the duration of the festive season from the 16th of December to the 3rd of January. The hours of the curfew will be longer, starting at 11 p.m. and ending at 4 a.m. The sale of alcohol from retail outlets will only be permitted between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. from Monday to Thursday. These festive season restrictions will be reviewed in early January based on the state of the pandemic across the country.
As expected, not everyone was pleased about everything the president had to say.
It's pretty ambivalent. I mean, you know, he's got a hard job. I don't think anyone's going to be happy no matter what. And ultimately, the restrictions are in place, and it's as much up to us to be responsible. At the same time, I would have liked to have heard more from him on accountability from government in where they have fallen down, you know, on the corruption and things like that.
If he truly wants to curb the exposure people have, he needs to shut down social interaction completely, which in the first place is a major economic crisis that's going to face South Africa, which we cannot handle now.
We just need to follow the protocols so that we can defeat this thing.
It's official, South Africa is going through its second wave of high COVID-19 infections, with a cumulative number of confirmed cases heading towards 1 million, although there's also a high number of recoveries in the country. The holiday season and the expected crowd gatherings have been a source of worry for government as well as the scientists advising it. Hopefully the measures spelled out by the president will go a long way in making a difference, despite the doubts of many. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Malawi's Homeland Security Minister Richard Banda has signed an extradition paper for fugitive pastor Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary. Now this follows an extradition request from neighboring South Africa, where the couple is wanted to face charges of money laundering and fraud. Although the couple has denied any wrongdoing, a high court in Malawi is set to decide on their arrest after they were released unconditionally by a magistrate court that said there was no formal extradition request from South Africa. The court will determine the case on the 22nd of December, according to local media. Now, last month, the Bushiris escaped from South Africa, defying bail conditions that barred them from leaving the country. Now, Yvonne Sundu, a Malawian journalist, joins us now for more on this story live from Lilongwe. Thank you, Yvonne, for speaking to us. Help us understand the situation with the Bushiris, before getting to this point of the extradition being approved by Malawi.
Well, the story started last month where almost everybody in the country was taken by surprise when the self-acclaimed Prophet Bushiri announced that he had fled South Africa because he was not sure of getting a fair trial. Up until now, as a country, it has not been known publicly as to how he managed to beat the security system in South Africa to find his way to Malawi. Suffice to say that there are stories of how Malawians managed to go to South Africa, using uncharted routes, among others. So probably he's one of the beneficiaries of those uncharted routes, and he managed to find himself into Malawi. He has refused to comment as to how he managed to travel back home. Suffice to say that he has insisted that he fled South Africa because he was not too sure of getting a fair trial. And when he got here, a few days later, he was arrested together with his wife, only for the court, for the High Court, that is, to free him on condition that there was no warrant of arrest that was used by the Malawi Police Service in arresting him. So that made him a free man. Now, just yesterday, the Minister of Homeland Security, that's when he signed the extradition papers upon request from the South African government to have him extradited. And what remains to be seen is to see what is going to be the next course of action. But knowing how Bushiri is, there are high chances that he's going to go back to the court to get an injunction so that he is not extradited. And that means that the whole drama is going to be protracted in terms of him being extradited to South Africa to face the charges that were laid against him a few months ago there.
We'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out. Thank you so much, Yvonne Sundu, Malawian journalist. Thank you for those updates. Well, a Ugandan magistrate court has issued a release order for some Nigerians who were detained in Uganda over the weekend. The Chief Magistrate Court of Makinde signed the order to withdraw the charges against them. Nigerian singers Omale and Thames, their manager, and 4 others were arrested and charged for negligently doing acts likely to spread an infectious disease after holding a concert in Kampala. A lot of reactions have been trailing their arrest, including from Uganda's opposition presidential candidates and music star Bobby Wine, who expressed support for the musicians. Earlier, our foreign affairs correspondent Amarachi Ubani spoke via telephone to the chairman Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, which worked with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the release of the Nigerian singers. She began by asking the effort by the Nigerian government in the matter.
Immediately the news broke, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was in touch with his counterpart in Uganda because it was obvious that we had to use diplomatic means. There were lawyers involved and all that, so the diplomacy worked. Our mission in Uganda, honestly, they worked really hard on this matter and ensured that everything was resolved. And the key thing is that, well, the charges have been withdrawn and they'll be on their way home soon. So it's all about more of the travel arrangements, the flights they take and all that. So our appeal to our Nigerian youth is, fine, mistakes were made. They were told they would be in a small venue, it turned out to be a big venue. Maybe more information, knowing where you're going and what is happening over there. So for us, we're just joyful that they will be returning home. I spoke to the mother of one of them who just said, can I speak to my child? And I said, well, your child will soon be home. So the diplomacy paid off, and Nigeria will continue to intervene in matters affecting its citizens anywhere in the world.
And as we end the program today, an Egyptian architect, Bassanat Magdi Abu Zadi, is designing accessories that mirror Zaha Hadid's work. Zaha Hadid is a British-Iraqi architect known as the Queen of Curve. Take a look.
From buildings to accessories, Egyptian architect Bassam Bagdi Abdul Zahid designed earrings inspired by the work of renowned British-Iraqi architect Zaha Hadid. The 24-year-old said she has been a fan of Hadid since she was a young girl and focused her graduation project on her designs.
I've
loved Zaha Hadid since I was a little girl. She was the reason I studied architecture. I love her work. She's my idol. When I started studying at college, my admiration for her grew. I felt that my work was similar to her style.
But while Hadid worked most extensively in architecture, her fan decided to take on a different industry.
I enjoy combining different types of art. This time I will connect architecture with accessories and I will use it as an inspiration for my designs.
The accessories all boast sleek lines and curves, mimicking many of the iconic buildings designed by Hadid. Abu Zahid takes direct orders online and sells her products to jewelry shops. Her designs cost between 100 to 150 Egyptian pounds for the acrylic pieces and 250 to 350 Egyptian pounds for the copper pieces. For jewelry maker Mahar Mohammed, this is a new and unique thing.
And that's where we end the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.